There is a moment in nearly every ambitious person's life when they feel an irresistible urge to explain themselves. They want others to understand the vision they have, the plans they're building, the emotions they're carrying, and the future they're trying to create. It feels natural, it feels honest, but history suggests that this instinct, while deeply human, is often strategically disastrous. One of the oldest lessons in the pursuit of influence is deceptively simple. What you reveal determines what others can control. Every piece of information you freely surrender becomes something another person can interpret, predict, or use. This is why the truly influential individuals throughout history have rarely been the loudest voices in the room. They understood that silence is not emptiness, silence is leverage. Niccolo Machiavelli observed rulers whose kingdoms rose and fell not merely because of armies or wealth, but because of information. Those who exposed their intentions too early invited resistance before they were ready. Those who displayed every emotion gave enemies a map directly to their weaknesses. The lesson extends far beyond politics. It applies to boardrooms, friendships, negotiations, careers, and even everyday conversations. The first secret, then, is remarkably difficult to practice. Never reveal your entire plan before it is complete. Think about how often people announce their goals long before taking meaningful action. They declare the business they are going to launch, the book they intend to write, the transformation they promise to achieve. They mistake speaking for progress. They confuse public commitment with genuine discipline. Psychologically, this tendency has fascinating consequences. The human brain often rewards itself for declaring an intention, almost as much as for accomplishing it. The applause, encouragement, and recognition received after announcing a dream create a temporary feeling of achievement. That emotional reward reduces the urgency to finish the actual work. Meanwhile, something else happens outside your own mind. Every listener begins forming opinions. Some become supportive, others become skeptical, a few quietly begin competing. Some unconsciously hope you fail because your success would challenge their own comfort. None of this requires malicious intent. It is simply how human comparison works. Once your plans become public, they no longer belong entirely to you. They enter the minds of others, where they are filtered through envy, doubt, admiration, fear, or self-interest. This is why many of history's most effective leaders appeared unpredictable. They understood that uncertainty creates flexibility. If people cannot accurately anticipate your next move, they struggle to organize resistance against it. Surprise has always been one of the quietest forms of power. Notice how nature itself follows this principle. A seed grows underground long before anyone sees the tree. Rivers carve mountains over centuries without announcing their intention. The strongest foundations are built where few people are looking. Human ambition works the same way. Build quietly, improve privately, let results speak before explanations ever do. This is not about secrecy for its own sake. It is about protecting fragile beginnings. Every meaningful project passes through a vulnerable stage where outside opinions can easily destroy internal confidence. At that stage, excessive exposure becomes dangerous. There is another reason to protect your plans. Once people know exactly what you're pursuing, they begin placing expectations upon you. Expectations become psychological chains. Suddenly, your decisions are no longer guided entirely by wisdom, but by the pressure to remain consistent with what you previously announced. The powerful remain adaptable because they reveal outcomes, not every step of the process. The second secret follows naturally from the first, and it may be even more challenging. Never expose every emotion you experience. Modern culture often celebrates complete transparency. We're encouraged to express every frustration, every disappointment, every anger, every fear. While emotional honesty has its place in trusted relationships, Indiscriminate emotional exposure comes at a cost. Emotion is information. When people know exactly what angers you, they know how to provoke you. When they know what frightens you, they know where your confidence breaks. When they know what desperately excites you, they understand what can distract you. Your emotional reactions gradually become predictable patterns. Predictability weakens influence. The individuals who command lasting respect are rarely emotionless. That is a common misunderstanding. They feel deeply. They simply choose carefully which emotions deserve expression and which require reflection. Self-control is not emotional suppression. It is emotional governance. Imagine two negotiators sitting across from one another. One becomes visibly frustrated whenever discussions become difficult. The other remains composed, listening carefully, revealing little. Which person possesses greater psychological leverage? Almost always, it is the one whose emotional state cannot be easily manipulated. This principle appears repeatedly throughout history because it reflects something fundamental about human psychology. We instinctively trust people who appear stable under pressure. Calmness signals competence. Emotional volatility signals uncertainty. Consider moments of crisis. Families look toward the calm individual. Employees look toward the composed leader. Teams follow those whose emotional state provides stability rather than confusion. Calm becomes contagious. Panic becomes contagious as well. Every emotional display influences not only your own thinking, but the emotional climate surrounding you. This does not mean becoming cold or distant, quite the opposite. The most effective communicators display warmth, empathy, and genuine concern. But they never surrender control of themselves to the immediate emotion of the moment. Between feeling and reacting, they create space. Within that space lies judgment. Within judgment lies power. There is another subtle advantage to measured emotional expression. People naturally project meaning onto what they cannot fully read. A person who speaks less is often perceived as thinking more. A person who reacts selectively appears deliberate rather than impulsive. Mystery encourages respect because the human mind instinctively fills uncertainty with significance. This explains why constant self-disclosure often diminishes influence. When everyone knows every thought crossing your mind, nothing remains valuable. Scarcity increases worth, not only with material possessions, but with information, attention, and words. Your silence should never become arrogance. Your restraint should never become manipulation. Instead, let it become discipline. Speak when your words improve the moment. Remain silent when speaking merely satisfies an impulse. Remember that every unnecessary explanation slightly weakens the force of your actions. Over time, people stop listening to those who explain everything. They begin watching those whose actions consistently deliver results. That is where genuine authority begins, not in louder voices, but in deeper control. So before you announce your next ambition, before you react to your next insult, before you reveal every emotion-seeking expression, ask yourself a simple question. Does revealing this increase my strength or merely satisfy my need to be understood? Because in the quiet space between impulse and action, power quietly chooses its masters. If the first discipline of power is learning when to remain silent, the second is understanding the true value of information. Most people think power comes from money, status, or position. These things certainly matter, but they are often the visible results of something less obvious. Beneath every lasting position of influence lies information, what you know, what others know about you, and perhaps most importantly, what you choose not to reveal. This brings us to a difficult truth that many people discover only after they've been betrayed. Not everyone who listens deserves access to your inner world. Human beings have an instinct to connect through vulnerability. It creates trust, strengthens relationships, and reminds us that we are not alone. But there is an important distinction between healthy vulnerability and careless exposure. The first is shared with people who have earned your confidence. The second is offered simply because someone asked the right questions or appeared sympathetic in the moment. The third secret is this: never reveal your deepest weaknesses to those who have not earned your trust. Every person carries insecurities. No amount of success eliminates them completely. The confident executive still fears failure. The respected leader questions certain decisions. The artist wonders whether the next creation will be enough. Even history's most formidable figures wrestled with uncertainty. Weakness itself is not the danger. The danger lies in placing that weakness into the hands of someone whose character you have not fully tested. Trust is one of the few resources that should grow slowly, yet many people distribute it rapidly because they mistake familiarity for loyalty. Someone who has known you for 6 months is not necessarily someone who will protect your interests for 6 years. Observe how relationships develop in nature and in life. Time reveals consistency, pressure reveals character. Adversity reveals loyalty, words reveal very little. Machiavelli understood that appearances can be deceiving. Those who smile at your success may secretly resent it. Those who offer advice may be gathering information. Those who praise you excessively may simply be waiting for the moment when your defenses disappear. This does not mean becoming cynical or believing everyone has hidden motives. That mindset becomes its own prison. Rather, it means recognizing that wisdom requires discernment. Trust should be earned through repeated actions, not granted because of pleasant conversations. When you expose your deepest fears too quickly, you unintentionally give others the ability to shape your decisions. They know where your confidence breaks. They understand which criticisms affect you. They recognize which situations make you hesitate. Psychological leverage often begins long before open conflict. It begins with understanding another person's emotional architecture. The wisest individuals reveal themselves gradually. They allow relationships to mature before opening the doors to their most personal struggles. In doing so, they protect not only their reputation, but their emotional freedom. The fourth secret follows naturally from this principle: never disclose every source of your success or advantage. This idea often surprises people because it sounds almost selfish. Shouldn't we share everything we've learned? Generosity is admirable, teaching is valuable, mentorship changes lives. But there is an important difference between helping others grow and exposing every strategic advantage that allows you to remain effective. Think about the greatest performers in any field. Elite athletes train in ways spectators never fully see. Exceptional entrepreneurs develop systems that competitors struggle to replicate. Skilled negotiators prepare extensively before entering the room. Their success is not magic. It is preparation hidden beneath visible performance. People often admire results while overlooking the invisible discipline that created them. Not everything valuable needs to become public knowledge. One reason is practical. The moment everyone understands exactly how you operate, they begin adapting to your methods. Predictability reduces effectiveness. Another reason is psychological. People tend to underestimate what they cannot fully explain. A certain degree of mystery protects your independence. Others respect what they cannot easily imitate because they sense there is more beneath the surface than what appears obvious. Notice how experienced chess players rarely reveal every variation they have studied before the match begins. Their preparation remains private because preparation loses strategic value when fully exposed. Life works similarly. Develop your skills quietly, strengthen your discipline privately, allow your competence to become visible while your methods remain personal. There is a profound difference between being secretive and being selective. One is driven by fear, the other is guided by wisdom. The fifth secret may be the most psychologically important of all. Never let others know exactly what motivates you. At first glance, this sounds strange. After all, aren't we encouraged to know our why and share our purpose? Knowing your purpose is essential. Advertising every emotional driver behind your decisions is something entirely different. Every human being possesses certain desires that influence behavior. Some seek recognition, others seek security. Some pursue admiration, others long for acceptance. Many pursue freedom above everything else. These motivations become the invisible engine behind countless decisions. But once another person understands precisely what you desire most, they gain the ability to influence you. If they know your greatest need is approval, they can manipulate you with praise. If they know your greatest fear is rejection, they can control you through exclusion. If they know your ambition outweighs your patience, they can tempt you into reckless decisions. Manipulation almost always begins with understanding another person's deepest motivations. The most centered individuals understand themselves without making themselves easily exploitable. This requires extraordinary self-awareness. Ask yourself difficult questions. What criticism immediately unsettles me? What compliment affects me the most? What desire consistently overrides my judgment? Where do I become emotionally predictable? The answers reveal more than your personality. They reveal the places where your freedom can quietly disappear. Real strength is not pretending these motivations don't exist. It is becoming conscious enough that they no longer dictate your choices. This is why emotional maturity is inseparable from strategic thinking. A person who understands their own desires becomes much harder to manipulate because they recognize when someone is attempting to pull invisible psychological strings. Eventually, something remarkable happens. You stop chasing every opportunity. You stop reacting to every opinion. You stop needing constant validation. Instead, your decisions begin flowing from internal conviction rather than external pressure. That is one of the clearest signs of genuine power, not dominance over others, mastery over yourself. And when people cannot easily predict your insecurities, cannot fully decode your methods, and cannot manipulate your deepest motivations, they encounter something increasingly rare in the modern world: a person who cannot be easily controlled. Remember, information is never just information. It shapes perception, determines leverage, and influences every relationship you build. Protect it with wisdom, share it with discernment, and never mistake openness for obligation. Because the strongest position is not held by the one who tells the world everything. It belongs to the one who understands that what is guarded with patience often becomes the foundation of lasting power. If you have followed the thread of this conversation from the beginning, you may notice that each idea builds upon the last. First, we learned that silence protects potential. Then we explored how information preserves leverage. But there is one final lesson that brings everything together, and it may be the most important of all. It concerns perception. Power is not only determined by what you do, it is shaped by how your actions are interpreted. Human beings do not respond to reality alone. They respond to the stories they construct about reality. Every interaction, every decision, every moment of restraint contributes to the image others form in their minds. Whether we like it or not, reputation becomes a force that often speaks before we do. Machiavelli understood this with remarkable clarity. He observed that leaders rarely succeeded simply because they possessed strength. They succeeded because they understood that perception influences behavior. If people believe you are disciplined, they approach you differently. If they believe you are unpredictable, they treat you with greater caution. If they believe you constantly seek approval, they instinctively sense where your confidence depends on them. The sixth secret, then, is this: never reveal every move before it is made. Many people sabotage themselves by narrating their lives in real time. They announce every strategy, every ambition, every next step as though constant disclosure proves confidence. In reality, it often produces the opposite effect. When every move is public, every move becomes vulnerable. The moment others know exactly where you are going, they begin forming expectations, offering unsolicited opinions, and sometimes placing obstacles in your path. Some will discourage you without realizing it. Others may compete with you. A few may quietly imitate your ideas before you have had the opportunity to execute them. Strategy loses much of its strength when it becomes predictable. Look throughout history, and you will find that many successful military campaigns, business breakthroughs, and political victories shared one characteristic. They relied on timing. Their greatest advantage was not necessarily superior resources, but superior surprise. Life follows the same principle. You do not need to announce every improvement you are making. You do not need to broadcast every opportunity you are pursuing. There is tremendous freedom in allowing your actions to mature before exposing them to public judgment. Think of the sculptor working alone in a quiet studio. Day after day, nothing appears to change from the outside. The work is hidden beneath dust, effort, and repetition. Then one day the curtain is removed, and what seemed invisible suddenly appears complete. People admire the masterpiece, but they rarely appreciate the wisdom of protecting the process. Your life deserves the same patience. Allow your goals to develop away from unnecessary noise. Protect the early stages of your ideas. Move with purpose rather than performance. There is another reason not to reveal every move. When people cannot completely predict you, they remain attentive. Human psychology is naturally drawn toward uncertainty. Predictability encourages complacency. Measured unpredictability commands attention. This does not mean behaving erratically or creating confusion. It means resisting the temptation to make yourself entirely readable. Leave room for thoughtful adaptation. Circumstances change, opportunities evolve. A wise person adjusts without feeling trapped by public declarations. Flexibility is impossible when your identity depends on proving you are always right. Strength lies in responding intelligently to reality, not in defending yesterday's announcements. This brings us naturally to the seventh and final secret. Never seek validation by explaining yourself to everyone. Perhaps no habit quietly weakens authority more than the constant desire to justify every decision. Someone criticizes your choices, and you rush to defend yourself. Someone misunderstands your intentions, and you feel compelled to explain every detail. Someone questions your worth, and you begin listing your accomplishments. At first, these reactions seem reasonable. After all, we all want to be understood, but there is a hidden cost. Every unnecessary explanation teaches people that your confidence depends upon their approval. The more desperately you seek to control every opinion, the less control you actually possess. Here is one of the paradoxes of influence. People tend to respect those who are comfortable being misunderstood, at least temporarily. That does not mean embracing false accusations or refusing to communicate when genuine clarification is needed. Wisdom knows when explanation serves justice and when it merely serves the ego. There are moments when speaking is necessary. There are also moments when silence demonstrates greater confidence than any argument ever could. Consider the most respected individuals you have known personally. Chances are they did not spend every conversation defending themselves. Their character spoke consistently enough that they trusted time to reveal the truth. Results eventually become stronger than explanations. Reputation grows through repeated actions, not repeated arguments. One of the greatest psychological traps is believing that everyone deserves access to your reasoning. They do not. Some people ask questions because they genuinely wish to understand. Others ask questions because they wish to debate. Some seek clarity. Others simply seek control. Learning the difference is one of the marks of maturity. Not every criticism deserves your attention. Not every accusation deserves your energy. Not every misunderstanding deserves your response. The world is filled with voices competing for your emotional investment. If you answer every one of them, you gradually lose the focus required to build anything meaningful. This is where self-mastery becomes visible. The disciplined individual no longer measures success by universal approval. Instead, they ask a different question. Did my actions reflect my principles? That question is liberating because it places judgment where it belongs, within your own integrity rather than within shifting public opinion. Over time, something remarkable begins to happen. People notice consistency. They observe that you do not react impulsively to criticism. They recognize that your confidence does not fluctuate with praise. They see someone who is guided by purpose rather than popularity. That kind of steadiness is increasingly rare, and rarity creates influence. Remember, perception cannot be controlled completely, nor should it be. Every person will interpret your life through the lens of their own experiences, beliefs, and expectations. Trying to manage every opinion is an endless and exhausting pursuit. What you can control is your conduct. You can control your discipline. You can control your preparation. You can control the promises you keep to yourself. When those foundations become strong, perception gradually begins to take care of itself. The most respected people are rarely those who demand recognition. They are the ones whose quiet consistency leaves recognition unavoidable. So, as you leave today, carry these 7 secrets not as tools for manipulating others, but as disciplines for mastering yourself. Protect your plans until they are ready. Guard your emotions with wisdom. Share your vulnerabilities only with those who have earned your trust. Preserve your strategic advantages. Keep your deepest motivations rooted within your own conscience. Let your actions arrive before your announcements, and never sacrifice your peace by trying to explain yourself to everyone. Because in the end, true power is not found in controlling other people. It is found in becoming so disciplined, so intentional, and so grounded in purpose that your life speaks with greater authority than your words ever could.